Dan kalau dia nak claim ataupun dia nak dakwa mengatakan Universiti Islam ni dia yang menubuhkan idea daripada dia, itu sebenarnya salah. Fakta sejarah boleh kita lihat. Persidangan tahun 1977 di Saudi Arabia, di Mekah tu, di Universiti King Abdul Aziz, itu menjadi dokumen yang penting penubuhan UIM. Dan penubuhan UIM di Malaysia ni macam mana diusahakan oleh Dr. Mahathir. Itu saya rasa memang banyak orang cuba nak cari kredit untuk dia. Saya rasa itu kita tidak boleh membohongi fakta sejarah.
Following the collapse of communism in 1986, the Berlin Wall which separated West Germany and East Germany, dissolution of the Soviet Union, and China's acceptance of the capitalism system, the danger of communism penetration in the Peninsula Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia became no longer active, that we, who had been carrying intelligence work in Southeast Asia, were instructed to look for new dangers. In Malaysia, the movement of the Communist Party of Malaya, which started during the British era that was filled with violence and cruelty, also ended. What was left was the bitter memories of the attack on the Bukit Kepong police station in 1950, which killed the policemen there and their family members. The government under Mahathir did not want to take revenge, even with the collapse of the Communist Party of Malaya, but agreed instead to negotiate with them. Mahathir knew they could be wiped out, but thought it better to spend on developing the country rather than fight them. He was prepared to do this, even with the communist threat from within his own office. 3 days prior to his appointment as Prime Minister, the country was shocked with the news of the arrest of his political secretary, Siddiq Ghaus, for being a KGB spy. We felt there was no need to seek the truth in this matter, because communism was no longer a major threat, and of the need to focus more on the new developments in Malaysian politics, which was happening very fast, bringing along with it new dangers following the change in the Malaysian leadership. Although Mahathir was able to topple PAS by using Anwar Ibrahim and promoting him by making him Education Minister, a post known to many as a bridge to the Prime Minister, but behind Mahathir's success and happiness, we saw Anwar's entry into UMNO as a dangerous penetration. Mahathir believed in Anwar's loyalty, confident that he would remain with UMNO, and no longer saw him as a revolutionist who believed in violence. Anwar used this promptly and wisely to his advantage. With his position becoming stronger as Education Minister, he fulfilled his promise to ABIM followers to get them into UMNO, and also to his Saudi friends on a promise to establish a more Islamic, cleaner Malaysian government. Anwar showed Mahathir a strong Malay and Islamic spirit, which impressed Mahathir because it would be good to compete with PAS. Mahathir wanted to retain the special rights of the Malays for as long as they wanted it, but Anwar wanted it to be retained until the hereafter. Mahathir launched the assimilation of Islamic values. Anwar promoted Islam Madani, but Mahathir did not regard this as a competition. Danger was approaching, but Mahathir did not see it coming. The Chinese language media began to read into Anwar's thoughts. To please the language fanatics and Malay extremists, Anwar was willing to ignore the feelings of the Chinese. Anwar told them that he wanted Malay be made the medium of instruction in Chinese national type schools. He instructed Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, schools and all the media to use the term Bahasa Melayu instead of Bahasa Malaysia, without heeding the trust left by Tunku Abdul Rahman, the first Prime Minister, for Bahasa Melayu to be accepted by the non-Malays as their language. With his position as President of the International Islamic University, it facilitated him in setting up his networking at the university. Although the International Islamic University was established by Mahathir, quietly, through his networks at the university, it was spread among graduates and academicians and also the Muslim community that UIA was a result of his thoughts and efforts. Not only the local students believed it, but also foreign students, especially from Saudi Arabia.
Pada tahun 1977, dibuat satu persidangan pendidikan Islam sedunia. Dia buat tu di King Abdul Aziz University di Mekah. Dan Dr. Mahathir pada masa itu menjadi Menteri Pelajaran. Saya di UKM. Saya pergi juga di situ, Dr. Mahathir pergi, dan salah satu kertas dibentangkan oleh Profesor Said Naqib Al-Atas. Kertas kebanyakan dibincangkan ialah tentang konsep ilmu dalam Islam. Di situ disebutkan bahawa ilmu dalam Islam ini ilmu yang mengintegrasikan antara ilmu wahyu dan ilmu akal manusia. Dan falsafahnya ialah tauhid, kewujudan Allah. Sains ke apa, teknologi semua itu akhirnya menuju ini adalah kejadian Allah. Jadi saya rasa Dr. Mahathir, salah seorang daripada pemimpin Islam yang hadir pada masa itu, membawa balik isu itu. Jadi pada tahun 80 ataupun sebelum 80, Dr. Mahathir melalui Datuk Dr. Sulaiman Daud, masa itu arwah menjadi Menteri Pelajaran. Saya duduk di Fakulti Islam UKM, dia bagi inilah. Saya menjadi dekan Fakulti Islam, dia telefon saya, dia kata, Dr. Mahathir nak buat satu universiti Islam. Tapi bukan universiti Islam yang biasa kita faham, dia kata. Saya kata saya faham sebab dia dah pergi ke seminar tu. Dia kata nak buat dengan cepat, jadi dia minta saya cari Profesor Kamal Hassan. Profesor Kamal, dia kata, awak dua orang datang jumpa Dr. Mahathir, tapi saya tak boleh pergi sebab saya ada komitmen lain. Profesor Kamal pergi, rangka filosofi itu, dan filosofi itu dibuat oleh Profesor Kamal, dan dalam tulisan-tulisan Profesor Kamal itu sebenarnya Dr. Mahathir ambil dan dia tambah-tambah sikit dengan tulisan tangan. Mengikut Dr. Sulaiman Arwah dulu, transkrip itu masih ada, kopi itu. Saya ingat kita cari di Kementerian Pelajaran. Itu masa Dr. Mahathir tubuh. Jadi ini mula-mula ditubuhkan UIM dan saya menjadi pioneernya, dan Profesor Arifin Suhaimi terlibat, Profesor Kamal, dan lepas itu kita dapatkan tenaga pengajar daripada UKM, UPM dan sebagainya, dan terus dimulai pada tahun 83.
He strengthened his hold on UIA by appointing a Saudi Arabian academician, Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, as the university's second rector.
Jadi sebenarnya bila UIA ditubuhkan, Dr. Abdul Rauf datang menjadi rektor. Tak salah saya mungkin dekat 6-7 tahun. Kemudian Anwar datang in the picture menjadi presiden UIA. Pada masa itu Dr. Abdul Rauf ditamatkan dan dibawa satu orang yang nama dia Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman. Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman ni saya pun tak kenal. Saya tahu dia ni seorang aktivis di Saudi, orang Saudi, tapi dia hidup di Amerika. Dia di Triple IT. Jadi Triple IT ini bergerak untuk proses Islamization of knowledge lah, salah satu daripada agenda dia. Jadi nampaknya yang ini Anwar bawa dia mari. Dan bawa dia ke sini, satu perkara yang saya pernah timbulkan dalam mesyuarat ialah tentang mewujudkan satu pejabat di dalam kampus UIA atas nama Triple IT. Ya, saya timbul juga, bukan apa-apa, saya kata tak ada masalah lah. Tetapi saya kata Triple IT adalah sebuah organisasi luar dan dia bukannya daripada UIA. Kenapa harus ditubuhkan dalam UIA, dan dalam UIA pula dilantikkan staf UIA untuk menerajui Triple IT.
Mahathir still did not realize all this because Mahathir had never thought that Anwar wanted to challenge or kill his image. Anwar became more aggressive, and without considering the racial composition in national schools, he imposed his ideology through the education officers and teachers. The national schools became like religious schools. Prayers were read and religious talks were given without taking into account the sensitivity of non-Muslim students. The non-Malay students complained to their parents, and this resulted in them taking their children out of national schools. More and more non-Malays refused to send their children to national schools. Hence, the beginning of the drop in performance in non-Malay students in national schools. Behind Mahathir's liberal attitude, Malaysians in general watched in anxiety, Mahathir allowing the onslaught by Islamic radicals in Malaysia. But some members of the Muslim society began to see Mahathir distancing from Islam compared with Anwar. In fact, Mahathir's dynamic and liberal thinking of Islam was seen as a hindrance to Anwar Ibrahim's Islamization of Islam. The competition in the 1987 UMNO party election between Tengku Razali and Mahathir gave an opportunity for Anwar to show his loyalty to Mahathir. He remained loyal to Mahathir when UMNO split and was on Mahathir's side in the rift with the judiciary. In several interviews with the Chinese newspapers, Anwar made known what he thought of the Chinese schools and its system of education as a hindrance to his vision of making Malaysia an Islamic heaven. He gave various problems to the Chinese community, undermining the administrators of the Chinese schools and sometimes attacking them in his speech. It was quite weird that Mahathir did not take it as a threat to his component parties. Meanwhile, Anwar was popular among the foreign press. Journalists from the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times in Malaysia regarded him as a universal Islamic intellectual because they were impressed with his knowledge and memory on words written by Western writers which he often used. They did not know that Anwar was actually Said al-Qutb and the Caliph who wore the Zegna shirt. Meanwhile, Mahathir was regarded by the Western journalists as anti-Western for his frequent attacks on the West. Anwar, on the other hand, was promoting himself among the foreign journalists as someone who understood their rights and freedom. Mahathir overlooked this threat as he was trapped in party conflict and judicial crisis, and allowed his education minister to destroy his impressive legacy which he had built for many years. In the following chapter, we will see Anwar as a greedy climber in pursuit of the top post by using his money and wealth. He wanted Mahathir to hand over the power which he had allocated for him as soon as possible.